So I don't necessarily have a horse in this race anymore because my brother and I switched over to Unreal for our game dev stuff about 3 years ago. But we did spend like 8 years in the Unity development cycle working on an MMORPG in that engine. And for a long time, Unity could do no wrong. And then they got a new CEO, and the company has proceeded to make some crazy business decisions. And just in the pursuit of profit, they have now gone down a rabbit hole that has just it's just taken the indie development world by storm, and it has pretty much every developer on Twitter and Facebook, etc., riled up and pissed off at Unity to the point where they are now starting to backtrack a little bit and say, well, actually, maybe we didn't think this through. Hang on a second. Let's revise these things based on feedback. But essentially, they made an announcement that they were changing their business model, and this is from their official Twitter feed. These changes include new additions to our subscription plans, the introduction of a runtime fee. Here's some clarifications to your top questions. Yes, it's a price increase. It only affects a small subset of current Unity editor users. Today, a large majority of Unity editor users are currently not paying anything and will not be affected by this change. The runtime fee will not impact the majority of our developers. The developers who will be impacted are generally those who have successful games and are generating revenue way above the thresholds we outlined in our blog. That means that developers who are still building their business and growing the audience of their games will not pay a fee. The program was specifically designed this way to ensure developers could find success before the install fee takes effect. We want to be clear that the counter for Unity runtime fee install starts on January 1st, 2024. It's not retroactive or perpetual. We will charge once for a new install, not an ongoing perpetual license royalty like revenue share. We look for ways to lessen the impact on developers and provide ways to bring the runtime fee to zero. If you're using any of our ad products, Unity Gaming Services, or cloud services, please contact us to discuss discounts. We are actively listening to and following your questions closely. Please review our fact page on today's announcement. We also invite you to continue these changes with us on our forums. Now, it's did they learn nothing from Wizards of the Coast? Because this is exactly what Wizards of the Coast tried to do to all of the people using the OGL, the Open Game License that has been in use for more than 20 years. Wizards of the Coast came in and said, we're going to change everything. All that stuff that you thought you got, we're taking most of it away, and now we're going to start charging you. But don't worry, it's not going to affect the little guys. It's only the ones who are making profit. And here's how we're going to charge you and make all this money. So this is bad. This is very, very, very bad. And thankfully, the internet has reacted in an appropriate manner, and Unity is now backpedaling, trying to figure out if they're. I honestly don't know if they can come back from this, because here's the thing. I liked Unity for a long time. Like I said, my brother and I spent about 8 years in it because at the time when we started doing game dev, Unreal still charged a license fee, which was not something we could afford as a startup. And then later on, Unreal came along and said, "Well, Unity is doing such a successful thing with their, free game engine and the asset store and everything else. We're going to do the same thing." So Unreal started offering that to people. And so you could now start having access to the Unreal Engine and a bunch of assets for that engine as well. And just over time, we came to start looking at the Unreal Sandbox and what they were doing with like shows like The Mandalorian and Star Wars and so on and so forth, because Unreal and Epic are way more than just video game engines. They are also being used in television productions and films, and Unreal is a big thing, and it's the idea of the metaverse might be a little far-fetched, but the idea of virtual worlds is something they're actually pursuing, and that makes the technology move in a certain way, and I like the way that technology moves. On top of that, they have the Epic Mega Grant, and I feel that the out-of-the-box tools are way more designed for people to just get up and going and get something out the gate with Unreal than they are with Unity. My brother and I have next to no programming experience, and we found the blueprint system in Unreal to be far more conducive to being able to do things on our own without needing to rely on a ton of outside people. Whereas with Unity, especially if you're doing online stuff, there's a lot of stuff that has to be done, and you need a team of people, and that's just a nightmare in and of itself because there's so much tweaking and things you have to do to make Unity work for certain projects. Now, for little 1-2 man teams, I think that if you are willing to put in the time, um, the Unity engine can still be, it's useful. But this monetary change, on top of all the other things that have been coming over the past year, I wouldn't touch Unity with a 10-foot pole. There's actually a post over here on GameDeveloper.com in the business section called "The Death of Unity." It's by Brandon Sheffield here. It says, if you're starting a new game project, do not use Unity. And they go through some of these crazy talks, crazy quotes and things from the CEO of Unity. Let me change this over to dark mode, everybody. But the most important things, he actually breaks down in here some of the things that came along with the discussion that Unity announced yesterday, which is Unity Personal, which is free, now cannot be used offline. All tiers of Unity now require developers to pay a flat fee for every game that's installed. Unity Plus is going away, and the Pro and Enterprise levels will now all cost a subscription. Most professional developers are going to be forced into using this, which is not necessarily a bad thing from the perspective of, I know a lot of developers. I mean, I know some developers who have worked in the AAA space who are now doing their own little indie projects, and I know for a fact, because I've been to their offices, that they are definitely not paying per seat for all of their Unity licenses for the developers. No one pays per seat unless they get called out on it. And then they're like, oh, my bad, here, we'll give you another. Because why? So this is to counter that a little bit. And I get why, because when you have a whole bunch of people who aren't paying to use it and they should be, that's it is what it is. Unity has never made money off subscriptions. Always made money off ad platforms. Different tiers of downloads and income are going to determine how much you pay. There's a discount if you use Unity services, and this money is meant to help with runtime issues when they can't even get their base stable version to run without crashing. So the problem is, as this article says, they're already charging a subscription, and now they're going to be charging an install cost on top of that. So what's the point of the subscription if we are also paying another charge on top of that? Why wouldn't it be free on that point? There's a whole bunch of other stuff in this article if you want to dive into it at your leisure, but the short version is this is the exact same thing. Quick commercial break, everyone, to give a shout out to our first official guild officer, Bubbalonia, as well as all of the guild champions, and of course, all of the members who help keep me on the air full time. To join as a member, simply click that join button below and pick your tier, but you can also support with SuperChats on any live stream or premiere, or SuperThanks on any upload or YouTube short. Don't forget the Discord. Let's get back to the video that Wizards of the Coast tried to do with Dungeons and Dragons, and it took them, a few months of back and forth and hell being raised, and before they completely backtracked, it says, we screwed up, we aren't going to change any of that, we're going to go in this different direction instead. I have seen, if you go to Twitter right now and just, let me go back out of dark mode, everybody. If you go to Twitter right now and just look up the Unity, discussion on Unity right now, and just scroll through here. This is actually where I found this, the death of Unity. Developer Cold Lamb threatened to delete their game amidst the Unity pricing backlash. It's people are basically going through here. We're not going to be doing migrations. Massive Monster leaving his statement. There's all of these companies. Here's a big one. Hollow Knight, Silksong delayed another 5 years to remake the game on a game engine that's not Unity. Unreal Live reaction to a Unity unaliving itself. It's just chaos right now, everybody. What the hell, Unity? It's just everybody. This is not real that I can find. I've seen this making the rounds, but I haven't actually seen this on any of Unity's social media yet, so I don't know if this is actually. I'm just kidding with you guys. It's just that's a fun one. Landfall making a statement. We are now, we would love to stick with the engine, but at present we don't see how we can start making new projects in Unity. Because we have no idea what retroactive business model that might throw us in the future. Everyone is essentially upset about Unity right now, and everybody's appalled at it, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because Unity at one point in time was the place for all little indie devs, and that's no longer the case. I would not recommend that you use Unity for anything. I would absolutely go with Unreal. You don't pay any rev shares until you make $1 million in profit, which is a ridiculous amount of money to think about for small 2, 3, 4, even 5-man teams. That's not going to infect the average person who might sell. Let's say you put together a point-and-click adventure game, which we've done. Those can range in the ballpark of 25 to $50,000, on the low end, up to maybe a couple $100,000 on the high end in terms of what you might recoup from the sales of that. So we're not talking $1 million projects for the vast majority of little indie things that indie studios are going to do, self-published and all this other stuff. That royalty, the rev share with Unreal only kicks in if you go beyond $1 million, and it's a very fair rev share. And then if you're also selling your game on the Epic Store, they don't even take a rev share at that point. They just take the percentage of what they're going to get anyway if you're selling it on their platform. So there's no 30% bullshit like there is with Steam. I like Epic, I like Unreal, I like everything they've done. I love the space that they're taking up in video game development and TV shows and film. So I'm happy to support them, and fuck Unity, essentially, because it sucks what they just did, and there's no reason to support them whatsoever anymore in my mind. Um, they might go back and walk all this back, but until they do, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole, folks. You're better off going with a place that at least has proven its track record over decades and decades and decades. And Sweeney, love him or hate him, has been the guiding helm for a very long time now, and that doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. So I know where I'd put my money. That's what we're working with. And Unreal 5 is freaking amazing. Lots of cool stuff. Anyway, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. See you in the next one, everybody. Cheers.